What's going on, everyone? So we've had a pretty big update the other day, and we got to talk about the actual most important relics to be going for, okay? Because there are a lot of choices, and some of them are going to be somewhat just, okay, I happen to get lucky, I happen to pull a chest, I happen to get fragments, and that's what I'm going to be going for. That is totally reasonable. But there are some situations in which you can kind of choose to go or choose to purchase some fragments. Or maybe you have a choice in terms of, well, do I equip this one? Do I equip that one? Etc. So we're going to dive into it and first talk about the ones that you actually have a choice over. So if we dive into the events tab here, go into the Holy Grail War and jump into the shop, you'll notice there is a Holy Grail optional relic. And there are a couple in here. The Mask of Tutankhamun, Gojion, Easter Island relic, the Mona Lisa, the Bianzhong. I'm butchering some of these names. I know it is what it is. But those are some of the optional relics that you can actually purchase fragments directly for. The rest of them are going to be acquired through treasure keys. And there are some that you really want to be looking out for. And then, of course, some that you can equip. So diving into the collectibles here, going over to the relic, we have the sword. The sword first is one that releases the normal attack and releases sword waves. But more importantly, it's going to give you final skill damage. This mask is going to give you global attack. The Easter Island is going to give you final skill damage. The Bianzhong is going to give you final normal attack damage. And the Mona Lisa is going to give you final normal attack damage. There are two here of those collectible fragments that you can choose that are by far way better than any other ones if you're running one of the big three. Again, big three refers to Whisperer, Sky Splitter, or Reaper Staff. That is the sword and the Easter Island. Why? Final skill damage is a multiplier on all the other multipliers that you already have because it increases your damage at the final stage, okay? This final skill damage percentage is going to be the biggest impact on your DPS, okay? So the Easter Island here and the sword are going to be the two most important ones, regardless of actually equipping them, getting just the passive stats on them. If you are a Helos Warblade user, then the Bianzhong and the Mona Lisa suddenly become far more important because final normal attack damage also affects you incredibly a lot. Now, if you're a Sky Splitter user, Whisper, you could still go for the Mona Lisa, but they're not going to be nearly as effective as the skill damage because most of your damage is skill damage. So just keep that in mind. The Bianzhong and the Mona Lisa are still good, just not as incredible as the sword or the Easter Island relic here are. Now, as for acquiring these are the priorities that you want to go for. And my suggestion, since you just unlock the final skill damage, would be to at least unlock the sword and then unlock the Easter Island because it's going to be more in depth to try to get the star levels on them, just get the final skill damage as a baseline. So try to unlock these two as a priority. And of course, if you're a sword or Sky Splitter user, get the sword first because you can actually use the equipment effect to give you the sword chi waves. And then if you are a Reaper Staff user, get the Easter Island. If you are a Whisperer user, I would also lean towards the Easter Island because lightning tends to be just a little bit more valuable than sword chi since it works with some of the other abilities that you may be running in your build. That said, the actual effects of these aren't that good. Getting sword chi waves. The mask gives you daggers. This is actually way more valuable for your Whisper users out there because you actually have all the other effects that affect daggers. The sword chi and the lightning, yes, they're usually just DPS increases and they can interact with some other things that you got going. The daggers are some of the more synergistic ones. You oftentimes have ways to trigger poison, fire DPS, healing, rage generation. Rage generation by far the most important. So this one's actually very good. We have final hero damage with the Holy Grail. This is a really nice one to equip. And if you compare that to the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is just going to be final damage bonus for 3 turns. So you can see the difference. This one's just hitting an enemy with greater than 70% HP. This one is giving you extra final damage bonus for the start of the battle. If you're able to end the rounds quickly, Dead Sea Scroll is going to be more valuable than the Holy Grail. As a reminder, you can only run one of the offensive relics. So when you're comparing the relics, you have to compare offensive to offensive, utility to utility, and support to support. So in terms of the offensive, the Dead Sea Scrolls is going to be a little bit more valuable than the Holy Grail if you're able to end the rounds quickly. But we also have 2 other offensive relics, the Ashoka Pillar and the Sphinx Statue. Now, these ones are just straight up worse. Okay, this one's just hero damage bonus, and this one is just hero damage bonus. This is not final damage bonus. Okay, there's a big difference. That final damage bonus is significantly better than the just standard DPS increase. So the Holy Grail and Dead Sea Scrolls are just straight up better than the Ashoka Pillar and the Sphinx statue. Just as a little note. As for the support relics, we have the Da Vinci's Codex. This one's going to give you final damage reduction at the start of the battle, and this one is just going to give you stacking damage reduction when critically hit. Okay, as a baseline, the Da Vinci's is going to be far better in PvE. The reason why is you don't want to be critically hit. If you're getting hit, you're probably dead. Okay, so getting final damage reduction, trying to stack that up, just isn't really going to be all that effective. And so getting just straight up final damage reduction at the beginning of battle is going to allow you at least to hopefully survive some extra turns that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. The other two that we have here is, well, when you're under HP, you get extra damage reduction, and you're getting extra damage reduction for the first 3 turns of battle. These are horrible. Absolutely horrible. Why? Because you cap out on damage reduction very quickly. So these ones basically do nothing for you. Now, the star levels of them are solid, but the actual effects of them for equipping are something that you just don't want to be running. You much rather have the final damage reduction from the mythic tier. And as a reminder, the only relics that we can get actually farm for the ones that are in the shop as of right now. So whatever relics that you get, just use, but some of the ones that you can focus on. Then we dive into the utility ones. And the utility ones, well, these ones are all over the place. As I mentioned earlier, the mask has the daggers, the sword has the sword chi waves, the Easter Island has the lightning, the Mona Lisa has extra combo damage, and the Bianzhong has extra light spears. For their respective builds, some of them can be pretty valuable. By far, the 2 most valuable ones of these are the mask and the Mona Lisa. Extra combo damage at the very beginning of the battle is really good for Helios Warblade, just giving you some massive DPS increase. And the mask giving you the daggers, going to synergize with all those extra dagger synergies, which is going to be really nice. The Bianzhong getting the extra counterattack light spears, and the sword cheese and the lightning do a little bit of extra. Still worth going for, but not as good as some other options. The other legendary ones we have are the Zhug repeating crossbow, giving you extra dagger damage the first 3 turn of battle. Honestly, for the Whisperer, your damage is mostly skill-based, and in general, increasing that damage is going to increase your overall damage significantly, but increasing just your dagger damage doesn't actually do a whole lot. It's still decent for your Whisperer users out there. We have counterattack damage plus 10%, obviously, literally exclusively for those counterattack builds, so pretty bad. Trojan Horse, same thing, getting you extra counterattack damage. Olympic Gold Crown, we have lightning damage. This is really good for your Reaper Staff users. And Dinosaur Skull, very good for your Helios Warblade users, but okay for your Sky Splitter users. We've got the, scrolling down here, the Bronze Statue, giving you extra combo damage for the first 3 turns. The Gold Cicada, giving you extra dagger damage, period. We have Nebra Skydisk, giving you extra lightning damage, period. The Hanjo Masamune, giving you extra sword chi damage. And the Ulfbert Sword, giving you extra sword chi damage. You can see that like all of these legendary have 2 variations. You have either just straight up permanent damage or the first 3 turns of damage. Generally, the permanent damage is going to be better because you don't usually end in 3 rounds in a lot of situations. So something to think about. But if you are really heavy on damage, then using those ones that give you the bonus damage in the first 3 rounds are going to be a little bit stronger. And as a note, this is really for PvE purposes. For PvP, usually the first 3 rounds of damage increasing is far more important than just permanent DPS. So if, for example, we're matching builds, right? If you're a Sky Splitter, you go for the sword chi increasing. For Whispers, you go for the dagger damage increasing. For Reaper Staff user, you go for lightning damage increasing. For Helios Warblade, you go for combo damage increasing or normal attack damage increasing. And for you, your Durian Hammer users, you go for counterattack damage. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest, though it really matches very easily. As another note, I generally do prefer the mythics over the legendaries. Like even though it's just the 2 sword chis, I would prefer that over just the first 3 turns of extra sword chi damage because you're at least triggering those sword chis, which can oftentimes outpace the damage increasing for all your other sword chis. That said, something like the Ulfbert sword is really good. Just overall sword chi damage is going to be really nice. So my lineup as of right now, if I were to have all the relics, would be the Ulfbert sword, the Sword of Gujian for the Sky Splitter. Then it would also be the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Holy Grail. I'd generally be going for the Holy Grail. And then I would also be going for the Da Vinci's Codex that's the 4 relics that I'd be running, since you can only run the 4 relics. In terms of relics that I'm actually grinding for, Sword and the Easter Island. Those are the 2 I want to prioritize. I'm going to unlock the Sword, and then I'm going to unlock the Easter Island because of the final skill damage. And then hopefully you get lucky in the future. But afterwards, I probably will go for the Mask of Tutankhamun, just because, yes, I can get the extra 1% final skill damage, but I think that's where it started to become the global attack 10% is going to outpace that 1% extra final skill damage. And the same thing applies to the Beyond Zhong. I'd have to do the math on this, but Sky Splitter specifically does do a good amount of normal attack damage. I don't think it's actually going to increase my damage all that much, so I don't think I'll be farming for this or the Mona Lisa, and I'll probably just continue to upgrade the Sword and the Easter Island effects with the fragments that I can actually guarantee purchase. But those are kind of the relics that you want to keep an eye out for. There are a lot of relics, right? But the rest of them, if we go through here, are just going to be RNG, right? A lot of these are just going to be RNG. For example, if you pull some keys and you get an epic relic, great, you get some extra HP, great, you get some extra basic attack damage, great, you get whatever you're pulling, right? It's just going to be kind of luck. There are some exchange shops that you can exchange for the relic exchange, right? You can go specifically for some of the legendary ones, not for all the mythic ones. And you can specifically buy the ones you're looking for if you do happen to dismantle some of them. And so that is something that you can consider going for. And in that nature, well, we talked about the legendary ones that you actually should be buying. I wouldn't recommend going for, trying to dismantle and exchange for one of the other cheaper relics, especially some of the like random ones that just give you stats, since those ones aren't going to have as great of an effect as the ones you can actually equip. But time will tell in terms of how easily it is to obtain these and how many keys we're actually getting and how many resources we're actually getting in the events following. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think about the relic system? I know I asked again last time, but we've had a couple more days to kind of think about it and dive into some of the stats. And of course, as of recording this video, we're actually going to start the Holy Grail. So check it out, and hopefully it's pretty good. That's the hope, at least. I'll see you all for the next one.